Hi again, Mark here from TalkingBass.net. So I recently had an email asking me for a lesson on playing octave patterns. Now, octaves are probably the most common intervals that we play as bass players, and they're also great for working on a clean technique in both hands. So this week I'll cover the most basic of octave patterns for those of you at more of a beginner or intermediate level, and then over the next few lessons I'll expand a little into looking at our technique, some alternate fingering patterns, and how we can use them in some cool and funky bass riffs. The lesson material for this video is available over at TalkingBass.net, so just follow the link in the info below. And while you're there, check out all the other lessons on the lesson map where they're all organised by topic for ease of navigation. You can also subscribe for free to gain access to a whole load of different practice resources. There are free ebooks, practice tracks, a forum, and much more. Also, you can opt for the Gold membership that provides access to all the premium products like the basic fundamentals and sight reading courses. So go check it out. So, what is an octave? Well, an octave is simply a musical distance from any note to the next repetition of that note. So if we take an A, here, open A string there. If we work through the notes alphabetically, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, that second A is an octave higher than the first A. So if we take that open string again and I just work through those notes, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. So I've got an A there at the 12th fret. That A is an octave higher than the open A. And that's all it is, simply that musical distance. Now, when I say a musical distance, I don't mean a distance on the neck, although I suppose that kind of relates to it. I just mean in terms of the note to the next note. So that A is an octave higher than that A, but I could also play that A there or there, and it's still an octave higher, obviously. So it's nothing to do with, moving up the neck. It's simply that note, wherever it is an octave higher than that. And this is all relative as well. So we, if we've got that A there, then the next A, that would be 2 octaves higher than that open string. And that A is 1 octave higher than that A. That A is an octave lower than that A. It's just a musical distance, okay? As I mentioned before, this applies to every single note. So if we take a G, for example, there's a G, an octave higher, there's another G, an octave higher than that, there's another G, another octave higher, there's another G, okay? So it applies to all different notes. So as you can see, there are plenty of different ways that we could play 2 notes an octave apart. If we look at that open A again, got the open A, we could move up 12 frets on the same string, or we could move up 7 frets and onto the next string, or we could use this pattern down here at the 2nd fret of the G string there, which is the most popular pattern, and it's the one that we're going to use today. So let's move away from the open strings so we can get a better view of this actual fretboard pattern, and we're going to move to a C. So first of all, you want to fret the C there, 3rd fret of the A string, and we're fretting that with the 1st finger or index finger. And then we're going to play the C octave at the 5th fret of the G string, and we're going to fret that with the 4th finger or pinky. Okay, so that's the pattern, okay? And you want to get that under your fingers so that you can identify it as a, just a fretboard pattern. And you could either see this as just working up 2 frets and then across 2 strings, or you can kind of see it as the 2 diagonal corners of a little box pattern or square. So if you imagine a little square going across the 3rd fret, up to the 5th fret and down, so covering the 3rd and 5th frets, we're at the 2 diagonal corners of that. So that's why a lot of people see these things as these little box shapes, okay? So there we have that octave pattern, okay? So that's our basic octave shape. In terms of the picking hand, you want to play the lower note there with the 1st finger or index finger, and then the higher octave there with the 2nd finger or middle finger. So index, middle, index, middle. You want to see the shape and also hear how it sounds. Try to get used to hearing that familiar octave sound. Learning a fretboard pattern like an interval is pointless if you don't know how it sounds. You'll just be playing by numbers like a robot. So as a beginning exercise, just try playing around the 2 notes of the octave pattern like this. Okay, so try to get used to that skip from the A to the G string in both hands, and try to really listen to the musical distance between the 2 notes. Every interval has a particular sound and character, and what I tend to call emotive value. Intervals are the building blocks of music, and the sound or feel of your riffs and bass lines is going to be determined by the intervals that you use. The octave is the most common and basic of the intervals, so it's a great place to start. So we can move that octave pattern anywhere we like. So let's try playing it on a G. So we're going to take the G here, 3rd fret of the E string, and then the G at the 5th fret of the D string. Okay, so again with the index finger and the pinky there, or 1st finger and 4th finger. So this time we're using the E string and the D string instead of the A string and the G string, but it's still exactly the same pattern. So again, just get used to seeing the diagonal corners of that little box shape there, and get used to the sound of it again. So it's the same relative sound, but just on a different note. Okay, so there's a G octave, and it'll feel a little different because we're playing it on the E and the D strings as opposed to the A and the G strings. So you need to be able to play it on both. Okay? Now let's try a simple bass line that helps with moving this pattern around. And this bass line is a really popular disco style figure that I'm sure you've heard before, and it sounds like this. So this bass line's in the key of D, and we begin on a D. So we start there, D, 5th fret of the A string, and then we play the octave pattern. So then we have the 7th fret of the G string. So that's our first octave. Then we simply move down to a B, 2nd fret of the A string, play the octave pattern, 4th fret of the G string, and then we move up a fret to C, 3rd fret of the A string, 5th fret of the G string, and then up another fret to C sharp, which is the 4th fret of the A string, and 6th fret of the G string. So all we're doing is moving from a D down to a B, and then working our way back up a fret at a time, but using octaves. So begin really slow with this, and then just build up speed. So when we move down to the B, we just then kind of climb up the neck using this octave pattern. The only part that you'll probably find difficult is the move down to the B, because it's quite a quick move, so your hands really got to dart down there, but then working your way up, that should be quite simple. So just begin slowly, keep it nice and in time, and then just build up speed slowly. Okay? So once you have this octave pattern under your fingers, start trying to see it in other riffs and bass lines that you might play. Instead of just seeing it in isolation, like that pattern there, you want to see it in other riffs. So if we take a riff like this, for example, stereotypical blues kind of riff, see the octave in there. It's right there. A riff like this, there's the octave pattern. So just start to see it in everything that you play. The octave plays a pivotal role in a lot of bass riffs, and the more that you start to see it, the better you're going to be at applying it in your own music. So that's the very basics of the octave, which should suit a lot of beginners. Next week, I'll delve a little further into the technical aspects of playing octaves and look at how we can use them to really clean up the playing in both hands. So be sure to check out TalkingBass.net and download that lesson material, and I'll see you later.